Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski, and this is the news. Well, this is already the 142nd day of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The search for bodies is still underway after yesterday's attack on Vinnytsia in central Ukraine. And this morning, the Russians attacked two universities in Mykolaiv in the south of the country. In total, Russia has carried out more than 17,500 attacks since the beginning of the invasion, and only about 300 of them were on military targets.
As a result of yesterday's rocket attack on the center of Vinnytsia in central Ukraine, at least 20 people have died. The number of injured is approaching 100, and a dozen are missing. Identification of the bodies is in progress. In many cases, DNA testing is needed. The chances of finding anyone alive in the rubble are close to zero. There were people in the building practicing before the concert that was going to be held in the evening. Unfortunately, not all responded to the alarm sirens. One of my friends was injured. He was found in the street. He was on fire. Now he is being treated in the hospital. Among the victims are 3 children. One of them is 4-year-old Lisa. Just before the attack, the girl's mother published a recording on social media in which the child talks about speech therapy classes in which she participated. Moments later, she died as a result of the explosion. As announced on Twitter by the head of the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, those responsible for the massacre will be brought to justice. While accountability conference in The Hague is underway, Russia commits another war crime. At least 1 child killed, among other victims of a missile strike on Vinnytsia. We will put Russian war criminals on trial for every drop of Ukrainian blood and tears. In the face of the recent attacks, Volodymyr Zelensky once again called on the international community to recognize Russia as a terrorist state. No other country in the world poses a terrorist threat like Russia. No other country in the world allows itself to destroy peaceful cities and ordinary human life daily with missiles and rocket artillery. As a result of the aggressor's attack on the city of Vinnytsia, 23 people died, including 3 children under the age of 10. Unfortunately, this is not the final balance sheet of the victims. After this incident, no one can doubt that it is necessary to establish a special tribunal for Russian aggression against Ukraine as soon as possible. Vinnytsia joined the group of cities that suffered as a result of the war. The recent attacks are also being felt by Popasna in the Luhansk region, which has become a ghost town. Before the war, the extinct city had over 20,000 inhabitants. Today, only a handful are left. It wasn't that bad after the first blast. The roof was still in good shape. But after the second, it just flew away. I still believe in peace, but the question is, when will it come? Every war ends with peace. Just what is its price? I don't know where I will live. It's summer now. I can rent a small apartment somewhere, but my pension is minimal. In turn, this morning, the Russians attacked Mykolaiv in southern Ukraine. Several people were injured as a result of the rocket attack. Rockets hit 2 of the city's largest universities. Every day, Russian forces suffer significant damage in occupied Ukraine. So far, they have lost 38,000 soldiers, almost 39,000 armored vehicles, and over 840 artillery systems. Unfortunately, losses are still growing on the Ukrainian side as well. Official data on both the killed and the prisoners of war are classified, but according to the institution dealing with the search for prisoners of war, there may be up to 7,000 Ukrainian soldiers in Russian captivity.
Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi resigned on Thursday. His decision came as a result of the breakdown of a coalition majority that had formed his cabinet more than a year ago. According to him, there's no longer the pact of confidence underlying the government's actions. President Sergio Mattarella announced that he is not accepting the resignation for the time being. Italy is stuck in political limbo after Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi tendered his resignation in the wake of a mutiny by a coalition partner. The country might need early elections to overcome a political impasse. President Sergio Mattarella rejected Draghi's resignation on Thursday and asked him to address Parliament next week to get a clearer picture of the political situation. Giovanni Orsina, a history professor at LUISS University in Rome, told Reuters on Friday that although the situation was bleak, it did not represent an end-of-the-world scenario. Draghi's 18-month-old government was thrown into turmoil by the populist Five Star Movement, which boycotted a parliamentary confidence motion on Draghi's plans to tackle the growing cost of living, arguing they did not go far enough. A national election is due in the first half of 2023, and bringing the vote forward would give parties little time to drop manifestos and prepare their lists of candidates. However, two sources in the Prime Minister's office, who declined to be named, expressed pessimism over the future of the coalition, saying Draghi was determined to stand down. The most likely outcome was a vote in early October, they said. In that case, Draghi could stay on in a caretaker capacity, but would not be able to draw up a budget for 2023 or enact reforms demanded by Europe in return for the recovery funds. None of the parties in the National Unity government have called for elections in the wake of Draghi's resignation offer, but if Unity cannot return swiftly to government ranks, the only alternative would be an election called in the autumn. However, the one major group that stayed outside the coalition, the far-right Brothers of Italy, led by Giorgia Meloni, embraced the idea at once after it has seen its support soar during its time in opposition and looks likely to emerge as the largest single party in the next parliament. Italy has not had an autumn election since World War II, and that is normally the period when the budget is drawn up. The Five Star Movement is likely to come under heavy pressure from other coalition partners to back down in its confrontation with Draghi and allow his administration to see out the legislature. But there was no immediate sign of any shift in its position. And now hundreds more people were evacuated from their homes as wildfires continue to rage out of control in southwestern France, authorities said today. Wildfires also raged across Portugal, Spain, and Croatia.
More than 1,000 firefighters supported by 9 water bomber aircraft have been battling since Tuesday to master 2 blazes fanned by scorching heat, tinderbox conditions, and strong winds. The fire continues to grow. We continued last night to defend all homes, since as the sub-prefect said a while ago, we achieved to save around 100 homes thanks to the superhuman efforts of my colleagues in the field, who didn't limit themselves and really went close to it. We're also trying to have the starting line of the fire under control. The main goal for us is to have it under control, and my colleagues are striving for that at the moment. The fires have now burned 7,300 hectares, a total that increased by 2,000 hectares overnight, authorities said. We are currently experiencing a one-of-a-kind season in terms of difficulty. We have already seen thrice the amount of forests that have burned compared to 2020. We had both a very dry spring and fires that started strongly, and so I really want to thank all of those who are in the front lines, who are battling to protect the population and the national territory in the face of these fires. Around 6,000 people were evacuated from surrounding campsites on Wednesday, and another 4,000 people early on Thursday. 3 houses and 2 restaurants were destroyed overnight in that area, authorities said. It was striking. When we were folding up our tents, ashes were falling all over us, so we really didn't have much time. It was striking, but we handled it well. The young ones handled it as needed. Wildfires also raged across Portugal, Spain, and Croatia, burning homes and threatening livelihoods, as much of Europe baked in a heat wave that has pushed temperatures into the mid-40 degrees Celsius in some parts.
And finally, earlier today, Slovenian authorities began to remove a razor wire placed along the border with Croatia, which was installed in the wake of the 2015 migrant crisis when hundreds of thousands of people tried to reach the European Union through the Balkans. Soldiers used bolt cutters to dismantle lengths of razor wire at the Kmachina border crossing and organize them into coils, ready to be removed from the area. One of the priorities of the new left-wing government in Slovenia, led by Robert Golob, is to dismantle the fence, in a move that has brought criticism from neighboring Hungary's right-wing government. The government says more of the fence will be removed in the future, and there's around 51 kilometers of razor wire along the border. These fences and this razor wire have caused many tragedies. People have gone around it and tried to avoid it and died in the Kolpa River. We understand that there are challenges before us, but we have the will and a way to make Slovenia secure.
Pomembno se je tudi zavedati.
It's also important to say that scaring people with stories of foreigners is an unacceptable political manipulation. Our best strategy is that we are good to one another. After Hungary shut its border with Croatia at the height of the 2015 migrant crisis, many migrants sought to travel through Croatia and Slovenia instead. Slovenia's then government in 2015 said it was building barriers to manage border crossing by migrants more efficiently, and more fencing was added on the border in later years. In 2021, when tens of thousands of people, mostly from the Middle East and Africa, tried to cross into EU countries after arriving in Belarus, both Lithuania and Latvia expanded fences and barriers on their borders with the country. Poland last month announced the completion of a wall along part of its border with Belarus to be equipped with motion detectors and thermal imaging cameras to prevent crossings. As usual, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful weekend ahead.